So welcome everybody. We are at the first session of training for the Jump450 Media LinkedIn Masterclass. I'm your host. Yes. Awesome. I'm your host, Brian Wallace, founder and president of Now Sourcing. We mainly make infographics, but in a lot of my spare time, I talk about all things LinkedIn. And I selectively do some training where I think it will do the most benefit and help. You guys approached us through LinkedIn, obviously. And I think it's a really good fit for helping you guys acquire customers through a really powerful way of doing inbound. So just to tell you some stuff that we are not going to spend any time on, we don't touch anything on the ads platform. We're not trying to do automation. We're not trying to do anything that even has a whiff of anything outbound. I'm not going to teach you how to send the perfect outreach thing and cold emails and all that crap. Because if you think about the nature of relationship of business development, if you are introduced to somebody you grew up with, somebody you went to college with, somebody that you're introduced, you used to work with them, wherever you happen to know them from, that's always going to be an actual relationship is way better to sell to people than a perceived relationship. So why should LinkedIn be any different, right? We get a tremendous amount of business, including Fortune 500 companies, straight off of LinkedIn, straight off of my profile. And I'm going to show you all the things that I've learned. I've been on LinkedIn pretty close to the earliest time that it existed. Fun fact, I actually deleted my LinkedIn account a long time ago because I thought it was crap. And honestly, I think it was. But came back a couple of years later, and especially important, over the last 2 years or so, LinkedIn, the creation community is insane. It's almost like going back to YouTube in 2006, 2007 or whatever. So it's not the ground floor anymore, but the amount of stuff that you can impact is incredible. So we're going to really focus in on the 3 simple steps that aren't so simple. 1, to craft the perfect profile, then making it super clear who you are, what you're about, what you do, so you're memorable once you actually have somewhere that makes stride. And 3rd is to make all sorts of ridiculously great content. And we're going to be touching around a lot of different rabbit holes down that. So all about inbound, all about being super interesting so people really get to know who you are, what your company is about. So if you notice also on my screen, I've got the 3 of you, Patrick, Tom, and Darren, as well as myself, not because I'm so cool, but because I will be referring to all of our profiles. And that's a lot of what we're going to be focused on today. The objective is to get you guys to be trained warriors that by the end of the month, you're not really going to need me so much. I don't really believe in like teasing it out forever, or it's like a class that goes to another pitch or any of this crap. I'm very distrustful of a lot of junk that I see on the internet. So everything that we're going to be talking about is stuff that I've experienced firsthand. If there's anything that I've seen from other people, I will always preface it with that. I'll also show you a couple things that we sometimes recommend in terms of benchmarking. We can talk about CRM systems and all of that. I'd love to also get a sense of everything that you guys have been doing and how you keep track of stuff from a sales and CRM perspective and specific goals.
So we were using Pipedrive, but we're in the middle of so Andy, my business partner, who's operations focused, we didn't really like Pipedrive that much. So right now we're in the middle of trying new CRMs and picking one. So if you have any suggestions, we're happy to choose. And we have some other BD guys that are coming on.
Sure.
So we're waiting for them to tell us really what they want to use. So right now it's pretty manual. We just have an Excel spreadsheet, but that's because that's just because Pipedrive wasn't working out for us. We didn't really like it that much.
Interesting. So I'll tell you, so my company's been around we started it 12 and a half years ago. In the early days, I'm sure we used like spreadsheets and whatever, but very quickly we got onto the 37 Signals, Basecamp, High-Rise kind of platform. But I found that while Basecamp's pretty interesting from a project management perspective, I hated High-Rise for CRM. I thought they really didn't kind of know what they were doing. So, must already be 7 years. I don't even know, 7, 8 years ago, I would estimate. I couldn't take it anymore, started evaluating everything out there, and I found Pipedrive. It was pretty new at the time, and I've kind of cobbled together different things over time and customized it. It's not perfect. It's pretty inexpensive, and it just works. So excuse me, we could definitely talk about Pipedrive and get into all of that, just as long as you're doing stuff with it. And honestly, if you have a bunch of business development people that are already there and then you're onboarding, it's really what they're going to use, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So I think in terms of, what would be best use of our time, it's like what you said about, how do we position ourselves from the perception perspective?
Right.
Darren and I, we have a whole team of people that are on the operational side that are going to be really handling that and integrating it based on their needs. And then we're just going to have to kind of conform to that. So I don't want to spend too much time there. And then obviously, the content creation side would be great to focus on that as well. So just for, for the sake of what we want to get out of this.
Absolutely. I just always like to set that, because if people don't have any CRM at all, whoa, we got to hit the brakes. If it does work for you, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Zapier, Zapier. Basically, it can look at all the different open API libraries for different kinds of programs, and a ton of stuff can connect into Pipedrive. So the second somebody viewed your profile, you could make it store a record. There's endless kinds of things you can do. I find that I'll kind of go on a kick where it's like a pendulum swinging, right? So sometimes I'll be like, yeah, let's just go into it and go hot on all this Zapier stuff. And then before you know it, there'll be like 500 records and it's like out of control. So I used to have it where I integrated anytime somebody would make a Calendly appointment, it would become like a new Pipedrive deal. But after a while, just lots of people just want to like learn about me, about the company, and maybe they're not so super qualified yet. So I had to hit the brakes. So a lot of that kind of stuff I actually like to do manually. But if that's a direction you're leaning in, certainly things that can connect those different programs can help a tremendous amount. So yeah, we can skip a lot of that portion. If you guys come back and you say, hey, we have specific kinds of questions, I could weigh in on that. But like you said, let's dive a little bit more in. And before we can hit anything from a content perspective, we have to spend a serious amount of time getting the profile stuff exactly right, and also just showing you benchmarks. Now, I will tell you straight up, I don't measure this as much as some of my fellow LinkedIn trainer people do. I think sometimes you can kind of get lost in the numbers. So for me to spend a ton of my day, here's the post I did, here's how many views and this and that, I don't really look back at it that much. And after a while, I kind of know this is how many followers I have. This is my baseline in terms of how many people are going to look at it. So I just kind of, after a while of tracking it, I feel like and I'm sure you guys as well, will just have a certain level of intuition. That being said, if you want to look at it across team for feedback or whatever, it may be good to just get a handle on the tracking. So since we're setting that stage, let's just look at this real quick. So, and I'll send you this as well. So this is just like a quick thing that we've put together, and we can kind of tweak it here and there as LinkedIn changes, as it always does. So we've got, this is just a simple post tracker, title, just so you know what it is, the URL to the post, when you posted it, how many views. Now, it's interesting, views will actually go away from public reporting after about 30 days on the short posts. Wow. The longer posts, yeah, so it's kind of a pain in the ass. And it's like, when do you update it? When do you look at the views? And I'm sure there's people with all sorts of clever automation, but honestly, it's so easy to get lost in the weeds in this stuff. And even what views means is different depending on the kind of content you're putting out there. So if you have a short form post, a view is an impression, right? If you have a video post, a view is a 3-second watch. Totally different worlds, right? Like they shouldn't even be called the same thing. But that, just to clarify what views are. Comments.
I saw that today. I posted a video just to see how many I would get compared to a picture of myself that I posted yesterday with more of like a positive, inspirational post. And the picture got way more likes. The view, I read about it a little bit more, so I knew that it was after 3 seconds, but at first I was really confused.
Yeah. And it's very jarring for people because a lot of times I'll recommend, one of the first things I'll say is get on LinkedIn video for sure. And there's a lot of reasons for that. But if you just get lost in the weeds on these top line numbers that don't matter, who gives a damn, right? Like we're talking about actual goals. Like you're here to get meetings out of LinkedIn of qualified people to get business. right? Or business partners or something of value, not just like, wow, somebody liked something. I have news for you. A lot of the people that write the checks, they lurk in the background. They don't necessarily like or share. So we're going to look at a whole command center around all the content that we make. So we're always going to be looking at all the people that are viewing your profile. So I noticed Tom doesn't, I don't think Tom has premium. No, Tom has premium. Darren does not have premium. We want to get you on that right away.
I have premium, but I just hide the icon.
Ah, clever. Look at you. Why is that?
I don't know. I thought that it was more salesy. So like if I'm actually going to people, they would think that I'm using premium for more of like a sales like approach tactic as opposed to like a natural connection goal.
That's super interesting. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that before. So I'll take the devil's advocate, because remember, not everybody on LinkedIn is doing it for business development, or at least as their actual title. I think that if you have premium, they know that like you're taking it seriously, and I think it adds, honestly, and it's like a different color, so it helps stand out. I would add it.
All right.
I get what you're saying, but honestly, a better way to make people not feel like you're salesy is to not use the word business development right here. So we'll get to that. Right? Like that is going to turn people off much more. So we'll get in there. So let's just finish up rounding this off here. So
Brad, really quick, do we have to manually update this, or is there a way to automatically pull those points that we want, those KPIs we want, views, comments? I know you don't like automation, but
yeah, I'm not really the automation guy. I'm very anti-automation. So there are people that were like world famous, going viral all the time, and they were constantly talking about automation and building their own tools, and many of them get banned. So I am so far away from the fence on that. I don't want to automate anything. I don't want to flag.
You can't even do like a data dump.
So I think, I think you can. I like doing it manually. But at the same time, I don't even like doing it. So I'm just saying, like, for the first few, I think it's worth just filling this out a little bit. But you'll notice, like, the closer we get to the end, I would say these are bigger actions. So for somebody to view or just an impression, it's not as much. I guess likes would be a little bit more. Comments or even more. Shares means somebody really has something passionate to say, good or bad, on it. Type, that's just meaning short form, long form, video, image collage, and a couple other treats that are brand new. Document sharing, and I'm curious to see if you guys have this, right? So I'm just going to open another LinkedIn window here. So when you go and you try to post content, do you have this little magic icon right here?
Yeah, video. What's that?
Not the video.
Darren, check.
So you got 5 things you should be able to do, but not everybody in the world has this. It's still in beta. First is the short form post, then is the long form article, then you've got the image or images, you've got video, and you've got documents.
I have that, yeah.
You have documents?
Yep.
Sweet. Okay, so that's a major win in the sense that seems to be algorithmically prioritized over everything. I have something I posted probably about 2.5, 3 weeks ago. It's got like 500,000 views. So for everybody who thought like all the big view counts are done because like there's too many players trying to see content and whatever, it's still alive and well. And everything I post on the document share seems to be beating out all my other content, not just views, but engagement. What's up?
What do you think that is?
Because LinkedIn likes to prioritize things that are new. If you just think about it from a logical perspective, if they have a brand new thing that they're trying to showcase, first they don't unleash it to the world, then it's buggy as hell, and then they're looking and hoping that the content creators of LinkedIn will come and embrace it. So when it was brand new, it was like floodgates open kind of thing, same with video. So eventually they'll probably strangle it. So if
I lost you.
Oh, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hi?
We kind of lost you for a second.
Okay, hang on.
I think we're better now.
Okay, we good?
Yep.
Okay, I'm not sure what just happened, but okay. I was just saying that stuff changes over time, so I don't expect that to be king forever, but the right now, that's very relevant. Okay?
Great.
All right, so back to the benchmarks. So that's what the type means. Notes, just if there's something notable, just make a note of it. I think this is good just for the first part of it. Here's just the thing about followers. Follower count is relevant and something of interest to me. So if you have 500 followers, but you get 30,000 views, that's amazing. Because the thing that we're always trying to do is punch above our weight class. Because sometimes you'll just kind of get in a rut, you'll just kind of plateau, and it's like, okay, I'm reaching like the same 500, 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 people. But if it's just the same people seeing you over and over again, it's not necessarily generating new business opportunities because they're already aware of you, who you are, what you're about, what you represent. Of course, we're about to turn up the heat, but we're always trying to expand that network. So it's quality and quantity. Again, you don't have to sit here and log it every day or whatever, but just showing you things that are on my radar of things that are interesting. Profile views are very important. This is the single biggest reason to have LinkedIn Premium, because without LinkedIn Premium, you can only see like the most recent 3 people that view the profile. I have lots of people by the hour checking me out, so that would be of absolutely no use to me. And I did mention at the beginning, I only care about inbound. I don't care about outbound. I don't have all day to reach out to people who don't know who I am. It's much easier to sell to people when they are coming to you in the first place without a question, right? Like, what would you rather do? Have the world come to you and think that you're awesome, or cold pitch a bunch of people who give a crap and you're bothering their day? So who's viewing your profile, especially as you have content that's
cutting out.
Are you still there?
Yeah, it might be we're getting off our Wi-Fi on our other stuff.
Okay.
Dave, he's on Instagram a lot, so he took out all the Wi-Fi.
Oh, okay.
Stop what's going on
Instagramming. Instagram sucks. You're not getting business off of it. Maybe not. Everybody's always like, Brian, you should totally be on Instagram. I'm like, really? Well, you know, I've got this LinkedIn train that's awesome right now. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, no social network is forever, right? But right now, and specifically for the last couple of years, LinkedIn is amazing. And I would say almost to the exclusion of all other social media. And you don't hear me say that a lot, considering all the networking on. So anyways, so profile views, who's viewed your profile, especially right around when your content is really hitting stride. This is so critical. People miss this all the time. You should, on a daily basis, probably a few times a day, once you see a lot of people checking you out, see who's looking at you. Because sometimes somebody's going to see your content, they're going to think it's awesome, and then they're going to check you out, look at your story, and guess what? They're busy like you, and they might forget about you forever. And that person might be the C-suite of a Fortune 500, because LinkedIn is social media playground for corporate America, which is where you're trying to reach, right? And small business, medium-sized, all these guys, they're all hanging out here, and this is the place that they do business. It's not on the other social networks for the most part. So especially when that stuff is happening, the most outbound that I personally do and I advise is if somebody's seen your profile and they really look to be a person of interest. And what's super interesting is, I don't know if you ever noticed this, but if you take a look at your profile and you look at who's viewed your profile, I've been a little busy the last few days, so my numbers dropped a little bit, but it was better before. In any case, what they have right here, look at this, interesting views. So they try to figure out really cool people for you. So like this person's a CFO, this guy's a co-founder for a big tech startup, right? So they're shouting out people to me. If I don't want to go through thousands of people, which it often is, just some of these filters are super helpful, okay? So looking at that constantly, what I'll do is I'll send a connect to somebody, but I don't just send a blank connect. I personalize it and I'll say, thanks so much for checking out my profile. Let's connect. And guess what? Without fail, almost always they connect. So the person who almost forgot about you and you would have been gone forever, you got that. And that's actually where a significant amount of business can come from, just straight from there. So critical. Also, you've got your where you appear in search appearance, and then just like some notes, right? So I tell people to just kind of note different dates and status. So you guys already have premium, awesome. Just make sure your new business development people are on that too, because looking through that will be very important. And I would also say, you know, as soon as you revise up your profile and summary and pictures and all that kind of stuff, because we're looking at the points over time, I'd say it would be good to look at all that. Okay, so without further ado, let's jump in and pick everybody's got get ready because we're going to have some tough love on everything for everyone's profiles. Ready?
Wow.
Who wants to go first?
Yeah, you do first.
All right, here we go. So you've got this thing, and I know it's branded, and those are your colors, but what the hell is this, right? Like people don't, like you're not the household name across the internet yet, right? You're not Apple, you're not Nike, you're not the name that everybody knows when it comes to this. You may be really well known like within your specific niche, but that's not enough. So I don't like this at all. Now it's better than Darren with nothing going on here, just blank. Sorry, Darren, but you knew that was coming. And Tom's got the same thing, almost the same thing. His has jump and it's a jump thing. I don't know what that means. Like maybe you guys sell bounce houses, right? Like it's way too generic, even though it's like a phrase, slogan, tagline. It doesn't make any sense because this is the first thing people see in your profile when they're coming to you. So by example, mine, I'm speaking at LinkedIn corporate headquarters, giving a presentation about infographics. So even if you don't know exactly what I do, it starts getting your brain subconsciously at the least, like, this guy seems kind of interesting. It's not like the coolest picture in the world, but that doesn't matter. And it also has to look good on mobile, okay? So I wouldn't go with blank. I wouldn't go with corporate-y stuff or branded stuff. And also, sorry, go ahead.
Me speaking somewhere.
Exactly. Yeah, it doesn't have to be you speaking, but it should in some way represent some sort of power, some sort of authority, some sort of hint as to what you do for a living. Because without that, they may just pass right on by. I mean, it's nice and it's colorful, but I don't understand enough quickly enough. And that really needs to happen fast in the mental transaction. Okay? So, but don't, for the love of God, do like the skyline of New York City or something like that. You're not a travel agency. So, and it's not like a dating profile or your hobbies. It should be something directly relevant to what you do. Speaking is great. Doesn't have to be that. Honestly, like it could just be like at a big gathering. It could be somebody on stage. It could be, I don't know, like a bunch of people sitting in like a cube of computers doing performance marketing stuff, whatever, right? And feel free to show me a bunch of different things. And this is definitely going to be homework before the next session. We want to get through all this as fast as possible so we can spend as much time really super going deep into all the content stuff and making the content better, right? Yeah. So we got to get this. And honestly, you can just put it up without waiting for me, but just everybody shoot me a message after and just be like, what do you think of these? Or this is what I put up, okay? Real quick also, you see this right here? So if you ever had to put your URL down on a piece of paper or business card, whatever, there's a way to make this shorter. Let's see if everybody else has it. Tom doesn't have it. No, none of you guys have it. So you see how mine's nice and clean? So if you go into your profile over here in the corner where it says edit public profile and URL, you should be able to cut that all the way down. I feel like that'll help a lot. So, okay. All right. So next is the profile picture. This looks a little low res when I actually zoom in on it.
Yeah.
Tom's also, let's see about Darren.
Darren looks like a schmuck.
Darren looks a little better. What'd you say he looks like a schmuck? You can also do filters and all that kind of stuff. So all these pictures are pretty good. And we already talked about your chest hair, so we got that out of the way. I don't know, take it or leave it. This is pretty good. And this looks like a wedding photo, especially since you're standing next to the other guy in the picture. And the background is a little bit distracting. So something that I find very interesting, there's a website called photofeeler.com. I'm not sure if you've ever seen this before. But this
we don't like the photo?
No.
I like your photo, but I don't like that when you look closely, there's a little bit of distraction in the sense that it's obviously a wedding photo because you've got the flower or something like that, I assume, some kind of event. So you got another shoulder in it and you've got some kind of building or something in the background that actually blends pretty close into your skin tone. So I don't love that. It's a good picture. Like you're dressed up professionally and everything, but just, I don't know. Like that, compare it to the other guys, right? This is much more isolated. It's slightly off center, which I don't love. And then Patrick's is probably the best because it's nice and isolated and it's like a very clear shot onto him.
Yeah.
And it kind of shows like, you know, I'm the CMO, like I'm a little more like opened up and like it's not as suit and tie-ish. But again, that's going to come down to your personality and what you're trying to do. But I would make sure to spend a little bit of time on a thing like Photo Feeler, because look at this. I'm just going to show you some insight. You ready for this? Forget about all the pictures on the bottom. Let's just focus on the top. All 4 of these pictures are the exact same freaking picture. But somehow here I am an arrogant ass, and over here I'm like one of the most influential people on the history of the site's testing. All because of the cropping, right? So they didn't like that it was all like weirdly off center and everything's cut off. Apparently, like if I have my yarmulke in the picture as opposed to it partially cut off, like there's a bunch of people that don't like that.
The far right.
Things in the world. And what?
The far right, they love the kippah.
Yeah. I just don't understand it, right? But after a lot of trial and error and a lot of voting, people love this picture. I mean, like, there was a moment in here, it was actually the top 5% in the history of the site. And they give you all sorts of specific feedback. So I know that some people want it cropped differently. And I think they're talking about here. But whenever I have like my yarmulke on it, people have weird feelings about that. But not to get into all of that, but you'll see like the weirdest kinds of, like this is the same damn picture. And I look artificial. How does it look artificial compared to the same picture? So sometimes bringing it closer, right? Let's see, like this picture is the same as this picture. And again, just bringing things closer into focus. These two were from the same photo shoot. They hated this one and they like this one. And like the only thing that's different is I'm almost exactly the same turn, but my smile is different.
Yeah.
It's endless how much time you can spend on headshots. This was done by a real good pro in the Metro New York area. If you need like someone to like nail it, this guy is like ridiculous. But I do think all your shots are pretty good. I would make sure that we make sure these are as high resolution as possible, because even on the small scale, I don't know if you can see it, but it really, you can barely see that that's a little pixelated. And I feel like Tom's too maybe is a little bit pixelated. So as high res as we can, and then try to run a couple of different tests. So not just the cropping of the picture, but actually different pictures. I would say a good statistical analysis of the test. And again, you know, also you can take this with a grain of salt. It's just to see like the wisdom of crowds. It's actual people that are doing it on the other side.
It makes total sense, Brian.
Yeah, and I would give it, I like to make sure the test reaches, I usually give up after close to 30, but sometimes I'll let it just run. I especially want to see notes and see what they say. So this is standard quality. So your quality level should hit like standard or precise level. And look at this, like just because of the cropping, again, it's outdated, it's too close up, crop, all that kind of stuff. Okay.
Who is this? LinkedIn employees?
No, it's a totally different website called Photo Feeler. So over my years of just kind of doing different things in LinkedIn, a lot of different creative professionals and I will compare notes. And I remember there was a guy pretty early on when the creator community started, he was obsessing over Photo Feeler. And man, he's so right. I mean, it's just, it really changes the game because again, this seems like a small trivial thing, but again, it is probably the first thing that people see, right? They're going to see this before they read that. People read in an F pattern on the web. So your eye is going to gravitate to what's going on here, over here, this whole thing in mobile, and this. And again, I see that as a status badge. I'd keep it. And interestingly, it kind of blends into the colors, but that's going to go away. All right.
Don't worry.
Yep. Okay, cool. So next, let's dive into the name. Now, what I'm going to say is slightly controversial. So you'll see this is your actual name. This is Tom's actual name. This is Darren's actual name. And then here comes Brian, the weirdo, who apparently like changed his social security card or something. Like that's not my given birth name. So here's why I do it. if you look at my name, I'd say you guys kind of have like pretty common names too. So have you ever Googled yourself and there's like thousands of other people with your name? My name, first name and last are very common, and it's a very common combination. So for me to stand out, rather than, hey, sure, go through 5,000 Brian Wallace's on LinkedIn and then like everybody loses all interest, part of why I put it there is for identity. The other reason I do it, when I give a talk about LinkedIn and I say, hey, everybody, what do I do for a living? The whole room shouts back that I'm an infographic expert. What's weird about that statement is a lot of times when I'm speaking before that crowd, I don't even know who the hell these people are. And they still already know because I've got a following, and nobody has to ask a question. So I like it. I have heard that LinkedIn does not like it because it's technically not your name. If they wanted to, they could probably take action and do bad things to your account. I personally have never had a problem, but I'm just giving you fair warning that it's possible for them to do something bad. But I mean, I'm practicing the fact that, they're not bothering me. If you want to see where I'm setting it up, it's just right here. So in my last name, I put Wallace, infographic expert. I don't love the word expert, but since people don't even know what an infographic is, I wasn't sure what else to put. Like infographic advisor, I don't know, it doesn't make any sense to me. So that's what I put. And also what's interesting, when you have your name like this and you do a long form LinkedIn post, the whole URL has all that stuff, which is great for SEO. You're going to have name of the post, Brian Wallace, infographic expert. So it's all sitting there indexed. And we're going to discard the changes. Oh, actually, one other thing while we're on the screen, there should be a thing. Where did it go? LinkedIn's always moving stuff. There should be a thing on here where it's talking about like always show all the updates to my group. Don't do that, because when you're just doing all these profile changes, nobody cares.
Yeah.
All right. So we've gotten through that. So take that or leave it. You don't have to, but I think it's probably a nice way to stand out. And don't write comma business development, because nobody trusts business development people with their names. So come up with something more creative. All right. Now, here is probably the single most important thing before you get to the summary and the rest of the profile. A lot of people get this wrong. So if I had $1 for every time I saw like author, comma, speaker, comma, coach or whatever, growth hacker, no offense to everybody who's here who's using all that stuff. It's just like, you're not doing this to impress Google and keyword searches. People will use it to find certain things, but I'm more concerned about impressing a person and giving them a certain projection of status, right? So my company's been around for 12 and a half years, and it's a household name when it comes to what we do. And I think it's nice to kind of have something about the company. So I have that. Then I put a pipeline. That's just the shift backslash, right? This is a visual separator. I think you guys are using these already. Next up, instead of just using words about what I do, I specifically call out achievements that most people don't do.
So what about so for us, we could put like Google Media Partner.
Sure. So like I'm one of a dozen people on the Google Small Business Development Council. So I put that. Most people don't do that. So I make sure to do that rather than just really basic things. This is to really raise the bar and differential between you and other people that might do what you do. Most people haven't done thousands of infographics. I put podcaster as opposed to like the whole name of the podcast because I just ran out of room, honestly. Local X is LinkedIn Local. You've heard of LinkedIn Local. So LinkedIn Local is a global movement that's been around for the last year and a half or so, that are meetups to get to know people behind the profiles. There's a lot of them, by the way, in the Metro New York area. And sometimes actually when I come to New York, I will put them on myself. So as we get into content, because I think that crosses over like real world and content married together, and we'll get into that. I think certainly like where you've been featured, especially if they're like really big, high profile things, are a good spot to put in here. So let's take a moment and compare and see what we've got in here. So I think that's valid. It looks like you were looking at what I was doing or you had this already. This is cool. I don't know what it means exactly though, right? Does that mean that you manage it, that you've raised it? I don't know. Like I think some qualifier would be better.
Yeah, I should put managed.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have a pipe there. That goes.
Well, explain what.
The 500 million and the client-driven revenue; those are together.
That's fair. I'm sure you could merge those two ideas together. And if you do that, that'll give you like a whole half line, right?
Yep.
This is cool too. Yeah, and maybe just like where you've been featured or something like that, I think might round it out well. And instead of client revenue driven, maybe just say like 500 million client revenue could work.
Yeah,
definitely. We just have it.
And listen, I mean, I make small changes to mine every so often. So it's not written in stone. We can test different things. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so let's look around. Let's look at Tom. Okay, so pretty much the same thing. I don't love MBA candidate because, like, who cares? Like, if they want to read about that, they can read about it further down, and it's already right here, right? So, you don't need to overdo that. And then entrepreneur and business owner, I don't know, like everybody's an entrepreneur and this and that, but if you're a managing director, isn't it? I think it's kind of implied that you're a business owner. So I feel like we can get almost an entire line back, and we could probably lose that word driven again. So yeah, Tom's got a lot of room to put a whole extra bunch of stuff. And then Darren.
On the goods.
This is the worst.
His is the worst. Hopefully we're not trying that as the competition. Take business development and throw it out. I know it's what you do, but like people just get rubbed the wrong way. And if they see you connecting with them, or if they are thinking about connecting with you, they're going to be like, oh no, should I even connect with this guy? I know that he's just going to do that crap where he's just going to like spam me with like 3 paragraphs and stuff. So forget it. Yeah. So digital marketing is too broad. So I don't know what that means. Growth hacking, no. And scaling the world's best ideas. Again, these things are too general. So you're following the right formula of the kinds of things that should be in there, but like shifting the focus to being like super laser focused will make you go much further.
Cool.
All right. So then we've also got the location. Everybody just says New York, New York. Perfect. And this looks good. This looks good. Let's take a quick look under the hood at contact info. So we're already going to change that. I'm sure your company website is supposed to say Jump450 Media over here. And this is where they can email you. Is this like an old thing or?
Yeah.
Okay. So you probably haven't looked at that stuff in 5 years. Go change all that. That's
Yeah.
Yeah. And then that's just for you and me to look at when we're connected. So that's cool. So those are the things to fix there. Let's take a look at everybody else.
We don't even care about Tom. He's not even here.
Yeah, but he's watching this in a minute. So yeah, we're not going to want at binghamton.edu. We should put at Jump. I like that he's got his phone number here. Why not, right? Like, and if you don't want a cell phone or something, you could always put like the office line, but you guys are here to like connect in every single way possible, right? I like that birthdays are in here, and he'll fix his profile name. He'll just be Tom Murray or something. Okay. And Darren.
We're not friends.
Well, we'll fix that. There. We always have to put a note.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Don't be lazy with it. Even when you're on mobile, you can still do it.
Yeah.
There you go. So hopefully Darren will come around and accept me.
I think he usually likes to know somebody a little bit more, but I think for now he'll accept.
Yeah, I got you.
Tell me why you want to know people a little bit more before you accept.
It's not true.
Okay. That's great. Real talk there. Yeah, I mean, listen, I'd love to like fly everywhere around the world and meet everybody in person and sit there for 2 hours, but that's just not always going to happen. So a lot of people, and people I've done business with for years, like we've never even met in person. It's like the internet's just weird, right? Some people like it that way. It's more expedient. It's more efficient. But you can really go very deep without ever meeting people with all this stuff. But Darren, you want to fill out more stuff. I like that you write this here. That was smart. Darren customized it instead of just saying website, because who the hell knows what Jump450 is if you've never been there. So hey, props to Darren on that one. See? Say it again.
10 clicks into his profile, he finally did something right.
Hey, listen, we got to look for hope in everything. Okay, so
We're friends.
Yep, there we go. Awesome. I'll even refresh it.
Give it to me.
Boom. There we go. All right. So while we're waiting for that to load, the summary is the cornerstone to your profile. I would go so far to say, for some people, when they have their summary down cold, you could almost like throw your website in the garbage. It's that powerful. People will read on to every single thing you've got, and they will get to know you better than a face-to-face conversation for half an hour. That's how much stuff you can put in here. I do not like the third person. I'm very much into the first, not third, but first. I don't like these stupid, like, couple of paragraph speaker profile things. And I don't like it when people go like super professional, super keyword. People just, the amount of money that people leave on the table, I tell you, people will randomly call and book meetings, and like, I'll never even have a conversation with them yet. That's how much bringing it from the content back to the profile, into the summary, and right into your lap, this stuff goes. Okay. So, in truth, Pat isn't bad, but it's too short, and it doesn't explain enough about his life, and it doesn't explain enough about his business. But it's close. It's getting there. So I like that you're a life enthusiast. I like that you like digital marketing and that you like connecting with people. Positivity is great. And then you kind of jump into what Jump is, and you give people a way to actually reach out, which is awesome. So again, it's a start. Let's just look at everybody's before we get into it. So Tom wrote it like a 5-year ago playbook kind of thing, where it's just like a bio from a website.
Not the most innovative, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's not terrible, but this whole thing is gone. It doesn't belong here anymore. Because
Right. Can you take a look at our CEO, Sean Cheek? He thinks he's like the best at doing this.
No. I'm just wondering how much.
well, all right.
I just got in the door.
Let's just take a quick look, because this is so important. Like, man, I cannot stress enough how ridiculous the power of this is. But I'll tell you right now,
if you do a good job on this, like, literally they won't even look at your website.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah.
Yes,
Sean's there. I'll tell you, Sean's beating all of you guys because he at least has some media on the bottom of it, and you all didn't. But there's so much more to do here. This is pretty good, but he's got a long way to go too. And it should, visually speaking, this should be broken up into multiple paragraphs and things for a visual separation, even without reading it. My brain is going to say, too many words. I don't want to look at this.
Yeah.
So his is probably the worst.
Makes a lot of sense, actually.
All right, Sean, you're fired.
Better luck next time, Sean. But good news is you're going to rock this really good. So yeah, Tom's needs to kind of be more up to date and not just this bio kind of thing. Want to look at, and Darren, no. Next. Yeah, you know what's got to go there. And we're not going to write that you're business development, because people are very resistant to salespeople, even though they need them or they would make terrible decisions. Now, again, putting my money where my mouth is, just take a look at this for a second. So first off, I give your eyeballs a break, and I never write more than a couple of sentences before I make my point to stand out. So I introduce myself, I make fun of like all the New York politics and how people sound and all of that. And people love this. And people will take this and use it as a template. And I've seen it like hundreds of times on the internet, where they will basically copy it and just fill in their own information. Feel free to use the crap out of this, but it's important that you see the one thing that I want to point out here. Well, two things I want to point out here is that it is the hero.
We lost you for a second.
Sure. Okay. Am I back?
Jeremy,
Can you hear me?
disconnect from any from the Wi-Fi down here for on it. We're getting some interference in our training.
Disconnect from the Wi-Fi.
Disconnect from the Wi-Fi for a minute. Yeah. Thank you.
Let me just turn off Wi-Fi on my phone.
It's better now.
My phone's not doing anything, but let me just make sure that's taken off devices. So I want to stress here that I go back from personal to professional. It generates a very personal impression. And can you hear me?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, and what's especially significant here is it has what we call the hero's journey. So I talk about, here's where I'm from. I went up a path. I didn't like that. Then I did, other life circumstances happened to me. And rather than writing about it for 5 paragraphs, I have a link here, which people literally copy and paste and listen to a 45-minute podcast to hear my life story. And they love it.
So is that clickable in your thing?
So it's not. So LinkedIn has been experimenting where they make clickable links in the summary. So LinkedIn has me in a weird spot where they're saying that something, I think it might be either my name or my summary is too long. So it won't let me test the link unless I succumb to taking this out of my name. And I don't want to do that. I'd rather have this because a lot of people, they're happy to just copy and paste. They haven't enabled it for everybody, but if you have room to put in links, make the links clickable, right? I mean, common sense. But people will go out of their way to copy and paste. They love it.
So we have our first podcast being submitted next week, so that would be cool to have in there.
Yeah, totally agree. This one was actually, I have my own show now for the last 2-3 months. So this is a pretty well-known podcast show, and I just thought it was a really good episode, and it just talked a lot about just devastating life events, overcoming adversity. People like it.
Can we come on the show one time?
Yeah, for sure. I would say not right now, though, because it's like totally in South by Southwest mode. So let's until that's done.
Whenever you're ready, no rush.
Yeah, for sure. I think it'd be fun. And I don't know if you've seen or heard the format, but it's pretty neat.
No, I'm gonna check it out. I mean, you got me on creating life dreams. So
well, there you go. Yeah. So I don't want to waste time in the training. We can have a whole separate conversation about the podcast. All right. So I talk about overcoming it, and then I had this whole other trajectory, moved to a different part of the country, and now here we are, and I can get right into it. I throw like the client list on there. I name drop a few things. I throw in a case study, and then I make it like irresistible to reach me. So like as you are enamored with the story, just reach out, right? Without even a delay. Email, phone, and this I think is also a key differentiator. So you'll notice this is a bit.ly that goes to a redirect to my website, which is Calendly, which is embedded on the site. So I can track this. I can track it in bit.ly. I can track it on my website. I can watch them on live support. And I'm reinforcing it with, hey, I'm looking forward to speaking to you. So like, you just feel like this whole thing of warmth. So it's not just like, I'm redirecting you to some cold corporate, whatever stupid form. We just get right into it like that. So people seem to really like this approach. Feel free to copy the hell out of it. If you use Calendly, great. If not, certainly, check out other things. But all this is, it's just embedding Calendly into the website. And it generates a lot of business. Before it generates a lot of business, it generates a lot of meetings, and that's okay, but you got to start somewhere. Also, let's talk about this stuff right here on the bottom. You are able to embed all sorts of media. You can do videos, you can do links, you can upload things. So I have included several things that are really important to me to demonstrate what we do. This is one of our most famous infographics ever. And make sure that it generates a thumbnail that's interesting. If it doesn't, try something else, right? Because that's important to have that visual splash right away. Like this is a super colorful thing. It's an explosion of color. And if you actually click on it, it goes to National Geographic. Pretty good day, right? So if we click on the next one.
Where?
So this is like, I like to also variate it, right? So one thing is about color psychology. This is talking all about Gen Z. This goes to World Economic Forum. So again, just kind of showing the breadth and depth of the kind of services that we do. This is the case study where we got a basketball player, a $64 million contract. Pretty good day for that guy. This talks all about influencer marketing. What else do I have in here? This is some speech or presentation I gave a while ago. And yeah, this is just another speech. So people like all that kind of stuff. You can also put YouTube videos.
Just, it has to be live links, or can you just put images?
You could do either. So what you do again, so pretend this is your profile. So you're going to click on the pencil and all the way down past your other stuff is right here. So you can
upload and you can
upload or you can link. And supported formats, because they change this kind of stuff pretty frequently. Let's just bring it up. So
can you link an image to and also to a website?
Yes. So if you notice, most of these are pulling thumbnail images or header images off of the websites that I'm linking them to. So that's what happened on the National Geographic one, on the World Economic Forum one. And that's why I'm saying, if you have a website, make sure it's got a decent header image, because before people click on this stuff, all they're really looking at, right? As they're really excited about reading that summary, just to have like a whole range of different looking things goes a really long way.
You just naturally want to click on it. It's like,
yeah. So I love Sean's right here. Having the Forbes 30 under 30 is fantastic, but there aren't more, right? And Sean and you all have done tons of awesome stuff. So this is a wonderful qualifier of a bar of excellence, but it doesn't really get into your work. It just shows that Forbes recognized you, which is awesome. But like,
so maybe we should do like a case study, maybe like a client quote, something like that.
Case study, client quote, video, presentation, media, any of that.
Okay.
Yep. And I think you can even put up to 10 of them. You don't have to put that many. Honestly, what I want is fill the screen, right?
3 or 6.
Yeah. I think, what am I at? Like 6 or so? Maybe I could even fit one more. They'll even carousel. Or it'll hit like a plus whatever. So you can keep going with it, including on the experience. But I don't think people are, maybe if you're like a cyber stalker and you want to see everything I've ever done in the history of the world, right? I don't think you have to go crazy past however many across it is. So on the experience side, you're at 4. Sometimes I like filling it up. Sometimes I don't. I don't feel like people read so much past the summary. So pretty soon we're actually going to cut this off, and we're running pretty close to time. So yeah, this is the homework, right? Just to absolutely nail the profile. And as far as I'm concerned, profiles start at the top image, or really the URL, and go all the way down to the bottom of the summary with the media examples. We'll get into all these numbers and stuff next time with articles, all that kind of stuff. I'll look through and just make sure experience is good.
Before we wrap up, I just want to confirm Tom's was probably the worst, this picture.
Is Tom's picture the worst?
Tom just walked in. I was just...
I fixed it. Thank you very much.
I don't think it's particularly bad. I'm a little concerned that it's slightly off center, like the way you're kind of like going like that. People might find that a little bit distracting, but it's not a bad picture. I think it's good, it's acceptable. But I would take that one and I would compare it. Sorry?
No, I was telling you about the service, photo
feeler.
Photo feeler.
Yep.
So we'll upload all of our pictures there and see how trustworthy we look.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I think the things that you just want to look trustworthy for people and likable. If you're scoring low on that, I would try a different picture. And honestly, the second you get enough of a statistical sample on your current pictures, I would immediately either load in a differently cropped version of the same picture, or even if you have like a totally different picture.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, nobody's is terrible.
Our homework is to update this. Can you send us this recording so we can share it with Sean, who was out, and Tom, who just walked in?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. I've been recording all this. So as soon as this is over, I'm going to have it just do all the processing, and then I'll probably just load it up private on the YouTube channel so you can be able to get it from there. Yep. Cool. So any questions from where we are?
No, this is definitely a great start. I think it's important that we really take a step back and focus on the foundation. I think this was great. Don't hold back, next week when we update it. And if there's more that we have to do, we're dedicated to making this work. And then
sure,
the next few classes, I really want to focus on how we can make awesome content, that really resonates with people.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say as the sooner you can get all this stuff wrapped up, the better.
I'm just ready for our next class. Can we do Wednesday at the same time?
Sure. So I'm going to be at South by Southwest from the 7th through the 14th. So it may be tricky the week that I'm there, but next week is the day before I go. So next week's fine. And then at the end of next week,
take a week break. Next week, give us a lot of homework.
Okay, we could do that too. I'm sure I could just pull away for an hour, but let me just double check with that. I want to make sure I'm going to get to the spot.
I'd rather just let us know, but it's okay if it's an additional week, or just 2 in 1 week when you get back is fine too.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, let's play it by ear. But for sure, next week should be fine. And I would say the sooner you can get the profiles done, the better. We'll do a quick review of everybody's profile, but I want to spend as little time as possible next time if we can get this perfect, so that way we can dive further deeper into it. But yeah, I mean, this is such a critical part that people do not spend enough time on profiles, and then they have nothing to show for it. So yeah, it's the work we got to put in, guys.
Yeah. All right. Well, Brian, listen, it's 7 o'clock on the dot. I'm a man that really values time, so we'll let you go. Thank you so much for your expertise and for your time. We're really excited for next week. In the meantime, we'll bother you with some messages as we set this up. Thank you very much, my dude.
Yep. Sounds good. See you next time, guys.
Bye, buddy.
All right. Bye for now.
How do I sign off?